And we're live, we're back. Do, 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 do. That's my opening music. What's up, Pete? How are you?
Not bad, not bad.
And I gotta go with the not bad either, which is not great either. We've been working a lot, guys. So forgive us for disappearing for a little bit. I was on vacation on July, or in July, sorry. And and then my new work schedule is just insane. It's absolutely insane. I finished a class, Pete, like at 9:15, and I've been working since 10 this morning. So getting on here every Thursday is easier said than done. But we're here. We're back. We left you at the end of season 5 with a big old cliffhanger, which was what was the cliffhanger at the end of season 5, Pete? You're good with this stuff because I forgot.
The X Files were officially disbanded, and just to make sure it's really, really over, their offices get torched as well. So the X
Exactly.
Files are essentially over. There's nothing left. And honestly, if we wanted to end the series there, that's just about as final as it gets.
Which
But it
is
can't be. It can't be because we all know there's a movie coming.
We all know there's a movie coming. Um, but I'm glad you mentioned that because that's we're going to get into a little bit of that. The fact that Chris Carter actually wanted to end the series then, and he wanted to then just move on to the movies and kind of expand this franchise, move it to the world of the other great big franchises, which I'm sure he was a fan of, whether it was Star Trek or Star Wars or Terminator or whatever it is. I think in Chris Carter's little heart, he's like, the X Files could have been that, but Fox was like, no, this is our big hit on TV, and you're going to keep writing. And for better or worse, the X Files continued past the movie, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we start getting into season 6 and some of those changes. And how a lot of folks, even big hardcore X Files fans, feel like this is really the end of the X Files as far as what the show represented to them through those first 5 seasons. Because there's definitely a big tonal change when we get into season 6 and location change, obviously, because they started filming in Los Angeles. But yes, this is it, though. This is, as I wrote in our little tag, which I posted in a bunch of groups. And thank you, administrators, and thank you for letting me post. And thank you, everybody that comes by and listens. As I always say, we have a small but steady viewership. You guys rock. It's total labor of love what we're doing here. Um, so it's so cool that we get our little ex Phillies, as they're called, as we're called, uh, who enjoy just chatting about the X Files for a minute. Let us know in the comments what you think of this movie. And before we get into it, okay, because we'll get into maybe when we first saw the movie, and then we'll talk about the movie and what it represents for the series moving forward. But I found this cool little article from Movie Phone: 15 things you never knew about the X Files on its 20th anniversary. This was written in 2018. So now, oh my God, Pete, we're nearing 25 years since this movie came out. Um, but first is what I had alluded to. Chris Carter originally planned for the TV series to end, and for this to be the first in a series of films continuing the show's mythology. Instead, it wound up being a bridge between seasons 5 and 6. And the movie was filmed during the hiatus between seasons 4 and 5. And this is why season 5 featured relatively fewer episodes with Mulder and Scully together. Okay. Armin Muller Stahl's character, Conrad Strughold, was named after the real life Nazi officer who conducted experiments on prisoners. And there's the famous bee scene, which used approximately 3,000 live bees. The
Oh
number
wow!
11, yeah, that's crazy. The number 1112 appears several times during the movie and throughout the series as a whole, including one of the domes in Antarctica. The number is a reference to November 21st, the date of Chris Carter's, the birth date of Chris Carter. And there's our man,
I
Zerial
did, yeah, I did actually know that about 1121 because it was in one of the season one DVD extras. It's actually in the pilot. It's the time
Flynn.
on Scully's clock. So yeah, you
Yeah.
see that a lot.
Well, directors do that all the time with numbers. Actor Terry Quinn, who's in a bunch of X Files episodes, and I think he comes back in season 9, if I'm not mistaken, as a completely different character. He plays Sack Darius Marshall. Appeared in 2 different episodes of the X Files in completely different roles. Once in season 2 and again in season 9. Okay, so yeah, there you go.
And he was also a regular character in Millennium as well.
In Millennium, and for the Millennium, speaking of Millennium, but the Millennial generation, most known as John Locke from Lost, which is if one of the, if not the reason to watch Lost because of him. He's the best character on that show and really great actor. 7. The scenes set in the desert town of the outskirts of Dallas were actually filmed in Southern California. The real Dallas doesn't have any desert areas nearby. The closing scene was filmed in Tatooine, the same place where George Lucas filmed the Tatooine scenes in 1977 Star Wars. That I didn't know. That's kind of cool. 9. It's no coincidence that one scene in the film features a drunken Mulder urinating on a poster of 1996 Independence Day. I put that on my note because that was funny. Carter used that moment as a chance to express his dislike of the film. The film was codenamed during production as Blackwood early on, a reference to famous horror novelist Engel Norm Blackwood. Scripts were also printed on red paper to make it hard for people to copy them. 11. Chris
Yeah,
Carter.
they
Go ahead.
they do that a lot with movies though when they're trying to keep everything hush hush. They did that with a lot of Friday the 13th movies. They gave them completely fake names just so people wouldn't know that they were filming the X Files or Friday the 13th.
Well, I can understand for the X Files, but it's not like Friday the 13th has the most like insane plot twist and like
No,
really.
no. Why they did it with Friday the 13th was actually because they were afraid a lot of people like wouldn't let them shoot.
Oh, that I did. Yeah, I remember that from the documentary that they would change the names because of that. I remember
Yeah.
that. Chris Carter wrote the script in 10 days during his Christmas vacation in Hawaii. While on vacation, he set aside a few days to break the movie story with X Files writer Frank Sputnitz on 3 by 5-inch index cards. Oh, there's our famous little alien. Their collaboration resulted in an outline that Carter would later write into a 124-page script. 13. Most feature films have at least 6 months to a year of pre-production to assemble key production heads and build sets, etc. Due to the film schedule, the Fight the Future team only had 6 weeks. And it's incredible how they managed to put this movie out so quickly and how good it looks. And it still holds up, a lot of the special effects and everything. But literally, they had to do this in between seasons. They didn't have like Game of Thrones where they would have like 2 years between seasons. Next September or October, or whenever. Hey, it's the fall season. Season 6 had to come out. So absolutely amazing that they were able to make this feature length film between 2 seasons. 14. All of the film sets, from the alien craft hiding under the Arctic ice to the frozen cave in the film's opening, had to be built as soon as they were designed, which means the studio spent a fortune having to rent all the stage space to house the sets that were built simultaneously due to the time crunch the film was facing. And finally, director Rob Bowman, who helmed previous X Files episode, storyboard the F out of this movie. According to Den of Geek, he left the production with a book of storyboards as thick as the dictionary. And I can absolutely imagine it. So, yes, guys, this is it. X Files, Fight the Future, the big movie. I was so pumped to finally get to rewatch it. Pete, when did you first watch this movie?
It's weird. I can't understand why I didn't see this in the theaters. I was a big fan of it. Um, I think I wasn't going to a lot of movies at the time, but I know I was like such a big X Files fan that I had like a T-shirt and everything. My girlfriend was a big fan, so honestly, I have no explanation as to how I did not see this in the theaters, but I did see it as soon as it came out on video, DVD or whatever. I know my girlfriend saw because I remember that she was giving commentary while we were watching it. So I have no explanation as to how I missed this in the theaters. But I did see it when it first came out on video later that year in 1998.
And did you love it?
I did. I thought it was everything a movie adaptation of an ongoing TV series should be, which doesn't happen very often. I mean, even the Star Trek movies don't count because that was a canceled TV series. But the only thing I can really think of is South Park, the time where they made like
Oh, they did make that movie. And
yeah,
this,
where they made a movie about an active, and they did with The Simpsons as well. But yeah, it was everything that it should be. It had like all the vibes of the series. Basically, it was it was like a longer episode of the TV series, but it was like a longer two-part episode, which have always been very cinematic in their presentation. But it was also done in such a way that it was pretty much a self-contained story that could have some appeal to people not familiar with the series and just be taken as a science fiction movie. And of course the budget was much bigger. We always talk about like how good the show looks and how cinematic it looks, but this isn't cinematic. This is cinema. It looks like it belongs as part of the summer blockbuster sweepstakes.
yeah, I agree. How cinematic it looked, it was really impressive. I actually saw it in the theater. I remember going to the theater because I was a big X Files fan, first run, so I was there day one. And yeah, I wasn't missing this one. I'm pretty sure I went with my best friend Dan, and we all gasped when Mulder and Scully almost kissed, and all the right
Yeah.
moments. They're all there. The whole audience was. It was one of my probably most memorable film experiences because I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm a big, decently big enough Star Wars fan, but I never got to experience those movies when they came out. The next generation ones, yes, but not the original Star Trek movies. So here I was finally, like I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the thick of it with a franchise that I really love. That I remember from episode one when almost nobody knew what the X Files was to becoming the pop phenomenon that it was. And there I am in line going to see the movie, and everybody that is watching this movie is so in love with this show too. So um, easily, it was easy to just capture everybody's attention. We were all keyed into this movie. So even if it wasn't that great, I think we would have still been in love with the experience. But it was actually a great movie. So it was all good times all around. And I hadn't seen it in so long. I'd probably seen it about 5 or 6 times. Uh, I tried to watch it with a friend of mine, but it didn't work out. He wasn't really into it. Um, so the big question that I had is, does this movie work for someone who has never seen the X Files before? We're trying. We're doing trying to do a test here. We asked our friend Justin to watch, but he just was not turned on by the series at all. He started from season one, wasn't into it, so he was not up to watching the X Files movie. As my buddy Scott, he's in the middle of a vacation. If he watches the movie, either we'll have him on or he'll just give me his thoughts because I'm very, very curious, Pete. If this movie does really work, if you are not a fan of the X Files, because I have this inkling of a feeling that I don't think it does as much. I think we kind of, because we're fans and we can look at it and we're movie fans too, and we can say, oh, this does work like just a regular sci fi movie. But I don't know. I think you have to be a little bit in tune with what the show is about um, in order to watch it. It's almost like, let's say, Star Trek First Contact, the one with the Borg and everything. It's probably the most pop one, but I think you still got to know a little bit of what Star Trek is in order to enjoy it. Or Star Trek with the whale, Star Trek 4. That's probably the most popular one of the original movies. I guess, I mean, yeah, but Kirk and Spock were such pop culture staples when that came out. Maybe people already sort of knew enough about them where even an average person could just enjoy it as just a regular old sci-fi movie, but I'm not sure. So I have that question. If anybody in the audience has a friend that's never watched the X Files and they want to get them to watch it and tell us about it, I would love to get people's opinions who have never watched any episodes of the X Files and whether or not this movie really does work. Okay, now getting to the technical side here, this movie was released on June 19th, 1998. Okay, it takes place it takes place in a quite a long time span here. Starts 35,000 BC and moves to present day. Had a budget of $66 million, written by Chris Carter and Frank Sputnik, as we had said, and directed by Rob Bowman. And basically, Mulder and Scully uncover a government conspiracy attempting to hide the truth about an alien colonization of Earth. That's what the movie's about. And on this rewatch, Pete, I was surprised by how much information is actually told. You know,
Mhm.
because when we watched the show first run, I think it's because of the space between the episodes. It felt like they weren't answering any of the questions that they posed, or they would forget threads. But when you're watching these back to back to back to back to back, you do realize, hey, Carter actually kind of laid it out for us pretty clearly about what.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
they reveal a lot. I think the frustrating thing isn't the lack of revelation; it is the fact that they tend to double down on it a lot, just as a plot point. It's like, oh, come on, you committed to that. You can't double down on it just for the sake of one episode, you know?
Now I get you. Um, but yet it's the mythology that I think makes the movie work. You know, so much
Yeah.
so that when we get there, we will talk about "I Want to Believe," which does feel like an actual X Files episode that just happens to be an hour and a half long. Whereas this one, yes, it's like an episode, except that it isn't. It's like it's so expansive because the mythology can take you to that expansion. As Pete mentioned, during the two-parters, those are the most quote unquote cinematic of the episodes where they'd be in different locations, they'd be on trains and on helicopters and going here and there. But it was still grounded because it was on a TV budget. Whereas
Hmm.
with a movie, all of a sudden you can be in, quote unquote Antarctica, it looks like Antarctica, and you can be out in the desert in one scene, and you can be in Houston in the other scene, another part of the movie. So,
It it's weird though. The like for the budget, there's not like a lot of special effects or action scenes. It's like the budget just went into to making it look bigger and grander.
yes.
Like you said, better locations. No sound stages. A kick-ass original music score. It just went into the finer details that make a movie like this look good. They had a couple big budget scenes. They had like a really awesome explosion at the beginning, and they had like the spaceship at the end, and they had some cool alien monsters. But that's about it. It wasn't like it was loaded with special effects and action scenes.
No, no, a lot of practical effects, in fact, but not a lot of which I imagine would be cheaper to work with the practical effects than any CGI stuff, except for the spaceship, obviously at the end. But I agree with you. They spent the money the right way, and they were able to make it just look bigger.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like watching Terminator, let's say, where you see, okay, they spent a lot of fucking money on this. Um, so impressive what they managed to do with it. So we're just gonna kind of run down the movie a little bit. I took a few screenshots. I tried to do it as much in order as possible, and we'll just kind of talk about our feelings on it. Oops, that's not it. Eesh. Let's move backwards. Sorry about that, guys. And there we go. So yes, Pete mentioned the alien monster. What I always love about this movie is the opening sequence because it takes you so by surprise. You know, you're expecting to see Mulder and Scully, but instead we see a bunch of cavemen
Yeah.
35,000 years ago. And that right there, Pete, what Pete keeps talking about, the expansion of this movie, how big it looks. You know, that's for me, it starts with the fact that they started 35,000 years ago. They
Yeah.
want to give us the grandness of what this whole conspiracy is, that it goes back so far. Um, and so you got the two cavemen. They go into the cave. It's played by Craig Davis, by the way, which played a bunch of other parts in the X Files. Um, in Carrick O'Quinn, and they find the alien in there that attacks them, and great film work here because again, it doesn't show us everything, which is scarier than showing us the alien. You just see a bunch of shadows and creature lunging out of there, and that's when we find out that the black oil, is coming out of this creature. So all this stuff that we've been building up to from way back when, season two, maybe I think is when the black oil makes its first appearance, either two or 3.
Hmm.
Um, it all comes to a head here with this opening sequence, and then to just bring that to the present day with the little boys who are digging, and they fall into the hole, and the black oil seeps into the little boy. Love it. I mean, it showed that they were willing to go there. One with harming a child, which I always think is cool when a movie does that, but two, showing that this is so much bigger than Mulder and Scully. So much bigger than everybody on planet Earth, that it goes back many thousands of years. Um, how do you feel about this opening, Pete? Because I love it. I think it's one of the great film openings.
Yeah, well, I think this is one of the reasons why it does work as for people who haven't seen the series, because if you're a sci-fi fan, that's going to grab you. I mean, you have this beginning that's set in 35,000 BC. The caveman encounters something bad down there, and I think actually, if you're not a fan, then you'd be like, "What the fuck is the black oil?" Right? I mean, that's mysterious. That's something for you to discover. But it's not good, right? And then it's set in the present day, and we have these kids falling into the same situation, and then this is like the equivalent of the James Bond pre-movie scenes, where they just give you like a teaser that grabs your attention, but that's not really the beginning of the movie. This is
Yeah,
just kind of to fill people in. So I think this is a really crucial intro for getting non-fans, but sci-fi fans. I mean, if you're not a sci-fi fan, probably not going to do it for you. If you are a sci-fi fan, this gives you something to invest yourself into the rest of the movie. You're set up, it's about aliens that have been here for thousands of years. Let's go. Let's hit the ground running.
I got you. And yes, it is a little bit of a bait and switch, as Pete said. The story kind of stops there, and then we go to 1 week later, and we're in this federal building in Dallas, Texas, and very reminiscent of Oklahoma City. What happens here? Mulder and Scully are doing regular FBI work, okay, because as Pete had mentioned, no more X Files, literally burned to the ground by the cigarette smoking man after he tells, what's his name, Spender that he's daddy.
Yeah.
But he's his daddy. So the thing though is that Mulder's in the other building. He's not in the building that all the FBI agents are looking into as being the one with the bomb in it. And I'm I'm looking at this. Yeah, I guess if you've never seen the X Files, this is a great scene too because it gives you the Mulder and Scully banter. You get an idea of who he is, who she is, with their little small talk. They're 100% like at the peak of the relationship between these two. There's still no romance there, but you can see how Scully just kind of follows him anywhere, even when
Yeah, I like how she ribs him about the face he makes when he's panicked. Right? She fakes that the door's locked. This scene
yes,
actually, where they're up there on the roof, and she's like, "I got you. You were panicking." It's like I wasn't panicking. I make this face when I panic. She's like, "That's the face," which of course comes back to bite him moments later.
yes, because it ends up that. And by the way, this little podcast here is going to be filled with spoilers, guys. So
Yeah,
if you haven't seen the movie, don't listen. Come back later. Um, and yes, it ends up that the bomb is actually in the building that they're on. Mulder was kind of up there because he's on his Mulder thing of like, man, this is a joke. They're just giving us like stupid work to do. So this is why I'm here. But the plan was to blow up that building, and not the building where all the FBI agents are in. And Mulder finds the bomb. He finds the bomb
in a
in
vending machine.
the vending machine. Yes. And he gets locked inside. And yeah, and I love the line when he's yelling at Mulder, at Scully to come in, and he's like, that face you told me about? I'm making it right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
she doesn't believe him until she finds the lock has been soldered shut.
yep, yep, yep. And so she gets guys in there. Our man Terry O'Quinn is supposedly going to disarm this bomb, but he just kind of sits there and doesn't do anything. And this is the big set piece. One of the big set pieces of this movie is when they're running out and there's the big explosion.
Yeah,
It's massive, um, and you think, okay, that was interesting, but how does it connect? So I like how in the end all these dots do connect. Um, so we're back in Washington. We see a little bit of Skinner. They're talking about this destroyed building and everything, and Mulder still thinks it's BS. He goes out drinking, and that's where we run into one of my favorite X Files cameos characters, our man, Mr.
yeah,
Landau.
Martin Landau, yes,
Yes.
who is also kind of a
Douglas.
science fiction icon too.
Yes,
He's from Lost in Space, one of the original early science fiction series.
yes, yes. Um, and of course, Bela Lugosi.
Yes, yes,
Yes, Karloff, Karloff.
yeah,
uh, but yes, so he's in there. He's just one of these kind of Alex Jones types. He's write these conspiracy books, um, and considered even too fringe for Mulder. But he tells Mulder, look, there's more to this bombing than you think there is. You got to look deeper. There's some nobody was found. Nobody died. The building was evacuated except for like, was it two or three bodies there?
four
You know,
people.
four people,
Yeah,
which
the
were
three firefighters and the kid.
in the kid. Yes. So yeah, because the firefighters went down to try to save the kid. So this gets Mulder kind of thinking a little bit. That's where we have the great scene where he's peeing on the Independence Day. That was a weird
Yeah,
scene.
he does. Yeah, he does have a great drunken monologue there though with the bartender. He's really drunk, and the bartender asks him what he does for a living, and he just goes on this rant. I'm the key figure in an ongoing government charade. The plot to conceal the truth about the existence of extraterrestrials. It's a global conspiracy, actually, with key players in the highest levels of power that reaches down into the lives of every man, woman, and child on this planet. So at that point, the bartender face just like freezes, and she's like, "Well, that about does it for you. I think
Yeah, no more
86 is
crazy
your
person.
lucky number."
No, that was a great dialogue, a monologue. Um, and I don't think, does he believe him at first, or it takes? I think it takes a second meeting for him to really believe. Oh, no, 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 he does believe him,
No,
because he does ask Scully to go to the morgue.
yeah,
Yes,
he asked Scully to
yes,
follow up on it. He's like, "Okay, well, it can't hurt. Our asses are in a sling, so let's
yeah. Let's
follow
give
up
him
on what's
more
this
to
guy
investigate.
saying." And yeah,
Yeah, and meanwhile, the CSM, cigarette smoking man, they show up to the spot out in the Blackwood County where the little boy fell into the hole, and it's been quarantined off. And when we go down there, we see uh, the body of one of the people that have been infected by this goo, or this black oil, and his body is all kind of translucent, and the alien is inside him. It's growing, and I thought it was
yeah,
such a rip for off of Alien. I had never made that connection before, but real rip off of Alien, as far as the how the alien gestates inside and then jumps out of his body. Um, but they're using, they realize that cold temperature is the only thing that's slowing the gestation process. So the cigarette smoking man asks for the doctor to try the weak vaccine on the victim, but if it's not successful, he has to burn the bodies as they did with the others. So there's that little aside going on there. But meanwhile, Mulder and Scully, they're trying to get into this morgue, which is, we've seen these type of scenes
yeah.
in the
He
show
bluffs his
many
way
times.
in really good. Mulder's such a
Yes.
good bullshitter.
Yeah. So what's cool here is that, Carter's doing a little bit of fan service. The stuff that you really like about the show. Here we go. We're gonna do it again. That's a famous skit. Let's say, one of the Mulder and Scully skits of getting into a place where they shouldn't get into. And when they get in there, that's when they start to see, oh my God, these bodies haven't been burnt. These bodies, haven't, they take the covering off the bodies, and they're all gooey and stuff because they've all been infected. It's real disgusting. And Mulder just
Yeah,
Scully there. It's like, I'll see you around, because he wants to go meet up with Kurtzwell.
yeah. An important plot point too that Kurtzell revealed in their first meeting is that this government building that got blown up, they had offices for, I believe it was either FEMA or the Center for Disease Control, but it's one
Mhm.
of those like emergency government agencies that handles like viral outbreaks. So like that's the hint that there is a connection between these bodies and whatever infected these kids and firefighters.
Yeah, yep. And so the plot, slowly we're starting to get an X file out of this plot. And then when Mulder tries to find Kurtzville, he finds that his building's surrounded by police cars. Okay. And we find out that, he's being falsely accused of selling child pornography, as a way
Hmm.
to be, of him being arrested and silenced. And he's hiding out in the back alley. Um, and he encourages Mulder to go back to Dallas and investigate. Okay, that's where you got to go, because that's the epicenter of all of this. So they head back to Dallas to examine the bone fragments, found in the pit, and kept for further observation at the FBI office. And when Scully looks at it, she's like, "Wait, there's some weird, things about this bone. The tissue in it. Is it human? Is it not human?" So again, the plot thickens, and we see when they're back there in Texas, they meet with the little boys, and The site has
We
been
all
cleared.
have new bikes.
They all got new bikes. Who gave you these new bikes? I, I love this scene where he kind of bribes the kids um, to figure out who was here. And then it has one of my favorite scenes in the movie when they get in that car. This car has like endless gasoline, but they get in the car and they are going to chase this truck.
Tanker truck.
The tanker truck. And I remember as a kid, man, this sparked my imagination so much because, well, you got a lot of trucks here in Brazil too, in São Paulo, but they kind of stay out into the outskirts. Where I grew up in Jersey, um, New Jersey is a state that's between Pennsylvania and New York, so you get a lot of movement of these trucks up and down the Jersey Highway, and it sparked my imagination so much to see because I started thinking what really is being transported in these trucks. We don't ever know. Is it really gasoline? Is it really corn or whatever it is? So they chase this truck and then they get to that section of
The
road.
fork in the road.
Yes, are we going left or right? And Mulder wants to go one way, Scully the other, and then boom, he goes straight ahead. And have I ever been wrong? Now, you do have to suspend imagination a little bit because man, oh man, he drove for a long time, man. If I were Scully, I'd be like, all right, dude, we're gonna run out of gas, and we're gonna be stuck here in the middle of nowhere. Although that doesn't seem to be Mulder's preoccupation very much about being stuck in the middle of nowhere. And they do manage to get back magically, one way or another, as we find out in the end of the movie. But they go because they end up at these train tracks and they see the white tank. And they follow it and follow it and follow it, and they find that the domes. But before this, we do get a little bit of syndicate action in England,
Yeah.
And the whole crew is together. Okay, there's Dr. Broschweig. He's the one that's kind of overlooking the inoculation of this infected victim with the syndicate vaccine. But the alien has popped out.
Yeah.
And man, speaking of, if you enjoy sci-fi movies, anybody that's a fan of sci-fi movies know that there's always a very well-educated doctor who does stupid shit.
Yeah.
Who wants to?
Yeah. Everyone who was working with him were smarter than him. It's like, I need someone down here now, and the dudes are looking at each other like, yeah, no. I think we're just
we'll pass. We'll pass on trying to get a 4-inch syringe onto the arm of a looks to be a very dangerous creature. So stupid, but hey, it's a movie. It works. I know a lot of folks have this issue with Prometheus, where the scientists are all trying to play with the pretty little snake in the goo pit, but shit, we wouldn't have half of the great sci-fi movies if there weren't at least some very smart person doing something very stupid to just move the plot along. So that's what this guy does. He decides, hey, I'm going to try to inject this alien creature that's scary looking as fuck and big as fuck and looks pretty strong. Like he just popped out of a motherfucker's chest. Does not go well for him. He gets long clawed to death, and then it's so funny. The guys up top, they just close the little hatch, cover it with dirt, and are like, "Yeah, dude, sorry, it was nice seeing you." But over the syndicates, they're a little worried, okay, because there's this new information concerning the black oil. And the virus is not an agent that would enslave humans, but a colonizing force that feeds on its host and becomes a fully grown alien. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is new information out. It's like maybe these aliens that we're trying to work with they're not to be trusted. They're not, the guys that we thought they were, because the idea is they're going to colonize. But if we work with them, we can maybe save some people, and meanwhile, we could secretly be working on this vaccine, which we can later use to kind of fight back. So we'll just pretend that we're working with them with this colonization plan. But this is way more nefarious all of a sudden. All of a sudden, we're like, hey, this black oil is not going to be used just to turn humans into drones, but it's going to be used to actually gestate and create aliens inside of humans. And that's not cool at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Although one question that I always have about this mythology arc with this colonization arc is these aliens are so damn powerful. Why do they even need the syndicate to be to why do they even need to be in cahoots with the syndicate? I don't know if Carter was ever able to explain that to like my satisfaction.
Well, I think it's because they're not like Independence Day aliens with like this massive armada of warships that can just like wipe out Earth and take over. They're sneaky aliens, and so for that they need the inside out.
Well, shit, dude. I mean, if you can travel across space and time to get down here, I figure they got some sort of powerful technology that could disseminate humans pretty quickly. Like, I get it that it's so much so that you do have the scene of Mulder pissing on the Independence Day poster, but I don't know if these aliens are powerful enough to travel all the way down here from across the galaxy. I would think they'd have some sort of really strong ray gun, just obliterate people. But in either case, that's not what they're doing. They're in cahoots. So Mulder and Scully, they end up in a cornfield. Iconic scene here from the X-Files. And they go inside these big domes, okay? Look like two titties in the middle of the cornfield. And Mulder hears a hum, and they think it's a generator. And then he's like, wait a second, this might be something else. So they run out of there. That's when the bees come out. And the bees...
Yeah. The bees have been mentioned before. The bees are recurring stars in the X-Files.
Yes, they are, because they're the ones that are going to carry the oil, right?
Yes.
Yes. So they're the vectors, I guess. They're the ones that are going to carry it. And so they fly out of there, or Mulder and Scully fly out of there. They walk back to their car that's got a lot of gas, and they return to Washington, D.C. Okay?
They do get chased by helicopters.
They do, the black helicopters. Yeah, Carter was throwing everything in there. Yeah, you got the black helicopters too, which is, if anybody's big on conspiracy theories, knows black helicopters, never a good thing. So they get back to Washington, and they're late for a hearing, okay? And Scully, I love this scene with Scully. Scully is just done, okay? She wants to quit. Very emotional scene.
Yeah, she gets reassigned.
Mm-hmm.
She gets reassigned, but for her, like, going to work in some rural field office after 5 years in the X-Files, it's just bullshit. Like, she can't do it. She's like, I gave up my medical career for this, and it's been worth it. But if I have to do something in the FBI that's any less than this, then I'd rather just go be a fucking doctor.
Yes, which she does eventually do later on in her career. But and you get that. So she goes to Mulder's house to tell him this, and he's begging her not to leave, and that's where we get the scene. The scene.
Yeah.
That the whole theater was, oh, when they didn't kiss, because
they did in the original take. There's a YouTube video of the outtake. Oh no, this isn't it. Yeah. This is what made
Oh,
the movie.
really?
But no, originally they kissed, and yeah, look up Mulder and Scully kiss on YouTube, and they have like the original scene. But
Oh, that would have
yeah,
ruined it, though. That would have ruined it.
instead she gets stung by one of the bees that we see in her hearing has gotten stuck under her collar, and
Yeah.
she's been walking around with it the whole time, and gets her at like the worst moment. And this is a fact acting virus because she goes out quickly.
Very quickly. And this is where I get a little pissed with the movie because she's kind of sidelined for the rest of the movie, you know. And I mean, Scully's such a cool character, man. And I get, you know, why people get frustrated with Chris Carter and company with their writing some stuff for Scully. Uh, in that, man, I mean, she's so cool, and she brings so much life to the movie. Mulder's great too, but having her just sidelined for the next 30 minutes of this movie really upset me this go around, you know, and where Mulder just has to rescue the damsel in distress. And it's not just, you know, because she's a woman and this and that. I get a little upset sometimes when it's in reverse. You know, how many times has Scully had to save Mulder's dumbass, you know, and he's just kind of sidelined for half of an episode. Um, so they work best together, but you know, the end of the movie still works. But it's kind of upsetting that, you know, she seemed like she was having this real character moment, this real great character arc coming, and then yeah, maybe not. Okay, so instead she gets sidelined. And great scene where Mulder calls the ambulance, but instead it's the fake ambulance that comes, and Mulder runs outside, and the guy shoots him, but he just grazes him. You know, he doesn't want to
Yeah.
kill him. And then he needs to escape the hospital to go save his partner, and then we get a little bit of our lone gunman.
Yeah, yeah. They threw everything but Krychek in this movie.
Yeah, right. No, you gotta have your lone gunman, and they come up with this very uh, uh, old timey, what, like maybe Laurel and Hardy ish plan to get the heck out of the hospital. You know, Mulder dresses like what's his name? Oh, it's Frohickey. It's I can never remember their names. It's Frohickey
Yeah,
is the short.
Langley.
Langley is the blonde guy,
Langley's the blonde guy. Yeah,
and oh, I completely forgot his name. Melvin. No, Melvin Frohickey. Uh, Langley Byers. Okay,
Byers. That's right.
he gets Byers' clothes, and he gets escapes the hospital with the help of Skinner. Skinner, this is not a Skinner heavy movie, but he's supportive of the two. He's there to kind of support the two, and he is able. You know, he needs to find out where Mulder is. You know, he needs to get some sort of directions to where Scully is. So his plan is to go back to see our friend Kurtzwell, but he's found by the well manicured man who executes him.
Yes.
Okay, and hides his body in the trunk of his car. And by the way, let me put a little bit of our well manicured man because he's, you know, he's my favorite syndicate member aside from Cigarette Smoking Man, of course. And this is his swan song, but
Yes.
very well, very wonderful swan song because then he runs into Mulder. And what I like is that if you paid attention during the 5 seasons, you see that he's a little disillusioned. You know, he gives
Yes.
hints of that throughout, you know, season 3, 4, and 5. So
And he's a family man.
he's a family man. And he's just not sure if this plan is the best plan, you know, that the syndicate have. So he puts Mulder in the car, okay? And the well manicured man reveals details about the mutated virus, okay? The syndicate's motivation to pursue hybridization experiments, in survival to colonization. Uh, and he knows he's acting against syndicate orders, but he entrusts Mulder with a vial of the weak vaccine. And he gives him the exact location of Scully and he needs to find her within 96 hours or it'll be too late. But then as the well manicured man drives off, it's over,
Yes,
baby.
well, yeah, well, first of all, he shoots his driver well when they pull over because he knows that the driver has orders to kill him if he spills because he's already like out of favor with the cartel. So he
Yeah.
knows these guys are watching him. So the first thing he does is kill his driver, and then he spills the beans to Mulder. And yeah, after he gives him the vaccine, Mulder gets out of the car, and kaboom! That's it. No more well manicured man. I read a synopsis that said he actually killed himself to avoid being killed by the cartel, but that seems like a pretty roundabout way to kill yourself when you already got the gun you just shot your driver with. I think the cartel took him out.
Uh, do you? Yeah, that's kind of weird for him to to want to kill himself. But it says you're aliens, Agent Mulder. Your little green men arrived here millions of years ago. So I love that. I mean, it's exposition, but it basically breaks down the X Files. Uh, those that didn't leave have been lying dormant underground since the last ice age in the form of an evolved pathogen, waiting to be reconstituted by the alien race when it comes to colonize the planet, using us as hosts. Against this, we have no defense, nothing but a weak vaccine. Do you see why it was kept secret? Why even the best men like your father, could not let the truth be told? Until Dallas, we believed the virus would simply control us. That mass infection will make us a slave race. Imagine our surprise when they began to gestate. My group has been working cooperatively with the alien colonists, facilitating programs like the one you saw to give us access to the virus in the hopes that we might be able to secretly develop a cure. And then without vaccination, the only true survivors of the viral holocaust will be those immune to it, human alien clones. So he explains what Mulder's father was doing. He allowed your sister to be abducted, to be taken to a cloning program for one reason. Your father chose hope over selfishness. Hope is the only future he had, his children. His hope for you was that you would uncover the truth about the project, that you would stop it, that you would fight the future. Um, so he just gives us the whole spiel, okay, uh, about what the whole plan is with the syndicate, which is cool because, well, one, because it helps you understand what the fuck is going on, but it kind of makes you root for the syndicate a little bit. Like they aren't totally bad guys, you know. They just have a
Mhm.
fucked up plan. They're just like, there's nothing we can really do. So this is our kind of fucked up plan in order to try to save humanity. Um, but we see in season 6 that it doesn't exactly work out for them. So goodbye, Mr. John Neville. Okay, the well manicured man. You were great. You were one of my favorites, and it's sad to see you go. And it's sad when all of you go in season 6 because I think that really killed a little bit of what the X Files is about without the syndicate there and only the cigarette smoking man. But anyway, we move ahead now. 48 hours later to Wilkes Land, Antarctica. Now, Pete, somebody in the X Files group had asked the big question, which is how the hell did Mulder and Scully ever get out of Antarctica? And I found the site where this lady kind of broke it down, like detail by detail by detail. And I'm not going to read any of it, but just to know that it's out there. But I mention it only because she gives a real cool, detailed chronogram of how it is that Mulder even was able to get to Antarctica in the time span that he had to get to Antarctica. Everything from like what's the shortest route there from Washington D.C., what plane he would have to take, how he would have to order a vehicle. And actually, he needed like a backup vehicle, so somebody was probably with him and left the vehicle there, which is explains how they were able to get out after the thing broke down, how much gas he would need. So look that
Yeah,
up.
it's not that far actually. I remember seeing a Pilot Guides episode. That's the TV series made by Lonely Planet, and they actually did that trip from. I believe it was either from Nova Scotia or Montreal, but yeah, he took a direct flight from either Montreal or somewhere in Nova Scotia directly to Yellowknife, which is practically in the Arctic Circle. So I mean, it's almost a direct flight to get to the Arctic.
Yes,
The problem is actually the land travel from there.
yeah, the land travel would be difficult. And this is the site here. So if anybody wants to read this later, it's kind of long. But blog how Mulder and Scully got back from
Oh,
Antarctica.
Antarctica. Yeah, fuck no, Antarctica. That is that's a lot further away.
Yeah, no, yeah, because that's where she was. She was in Antarctica.
Okay, I thought she was in the Arctic.
No, she was.
I
They
thought she
were
was in
down
the
there.
North Pole.
No. Oh yeah, if it was the North Pole, I think it would be a bit easier. Yeah, but no, they had to go all the way down to Antarctica, and it's real cool because she breaks it down, even as far as what like there's several routes to Antarctica to take from Washington D.C., from Chile, from Cape Town, and it goes all the way. She found that the quickest one is to go to New Zealand, and then from there go down. But in the end, it all breaks down to he had to get a second car, you know, and have it ready for him. Um, uh, to get back to on it after there's a most likely Mulder and Scully would have slept until they were rescued by the backup snowcat or possibly played truth or dare. But they definitely gazed at the Aurora Australis together before they returned to the real world where their everyday lives were waiting. So Mulder would have had to tell the guy that he rented the vehicle from, hey, come pick me up in such and such amount of hours. And that's what happened. So check this blog out. Really cool how she did all the research. Reminds me of this other blog where this guy was breaking down scene by scene the last scene of The Sopranos and how, Tony Soprano was offed. And the creator, what's his name, David Chase, he kind of name dropped, or he kind of by mistake he admitted that yeah he was killed, and then it kind of connected with what this guy wrote. But it's cool how he just kind of broke it down scene by scene by scene, camera shot by camera shot. So let's get back though to Antarctica Files. And beautiful scene. We had seen some stuff in the cold before in the X-Files, but nothing, as Pete mentioned, this splendid and this expansive. There was that great episode where he ends up in the Arctic. I think that time he was in the Arctic, Pete. Remember where the bounty hunter was
Yes.
after him in that submarine? But that stuff could have just been done up in Canada, but this stuff here was beautiful to see. Beautiful to see. So he goes up there to save his woman. And that's where the second half, the rest of the money of this budget went, I think, probably
Yeah.
20 million for that opening scene with the explosion and the other 40 million just to make this look gorgeous, which is when our friend Mulder goes inside the alien ship and it's huge. And there's aliens inside the alien ship that are gestating, and the cigarette smoking man is there, and Mulder just fucks everything. He's like, I'm just gonna break this thing down. Starts overheating. Aliens start to come to life. He finds Scully. This is so disgusting here, where she's got this tube in her mouth, pulling this out, and then they realize we got to get off this ship before whatever it's doing finishes doing what it's doing. So they're racing for their lives. But meanwhile, because it's heating up, the ice is melting and the aliens are coming out. So you get a little bit of an alien chase. The big clawed aliens, they're vicious as fuck. And they make it out. Get this beautiful scene of the spaceship. Oh man, it'd be so cool if they re-released this movie for like 25-year anniversary or something. Now that Disney got all the X Files on Disney Plus, and there's I think Chris Carter's working on, I think it was an animated series and stuff. So there's buzz with the X Files right now. You know, not big buzz like when they did the revival season, but it would be cool if we could get like a re-release of this movie because it's such a cool scene to watch on the big screen with this alien ship coming out. But then it leads to womp womp. Scully knocked out and not seeing the alien spaceship.
Yeah, that was so done on purpose, though.
Oh God! I'm like, not again. But yes, I mean, we were still in Scully. She's seen so much, but not enough level, and this was very frustrating. But yeah, she's knocked out. Although rewatching it now, you see that she turns her head a little bit. I think she might have seen something, but of course, Scully being Scully, she's just gonna rationalize it as a fever dream, you know, because she definitely looked a little bit and saw the ship, you know, but then she just got completely knocked out. And then that's where you guys, if you want to read that blog there that I had talked about, you're gonna understand how it is that they got out of um, the Arctic, and that's it basically. I mean, you know, then they're back in Washington D.C. and the movie just pretty much ends. You know, they recover from their ordeal. Uh, Scully's, you know, oh no, there's a new director, right? Assistant director Cassidy. If you,
No.
oh no, this is the meeting, the OPR meeting. Yes, it's like a whole bunch of them just trying to figure out what they're gonna do with Mulder and Scully, and then she gets this report from Scully, and she's confused. Everybody's confused about what they've read. There's no hard evidence. All that Scully has is the encapsulated honeybee. Okay, that was collected by the lone gunman, but it's more of Mulder and Scully having so much and then not having anything, you know? Uh, and meanwhile, they've got a new cornfield out there. So,
Yes, yes. This one in Tunisia, I believe.
yeah.
Yes. And they, while he's there too, the smoking man gets a telegram that pisses him off. And the implication, I don't think we actually see the telegram, because the implication is that implies the X-Files are being reopened. But at the beginning of season 6, they clearly are not. And it doesn't look like they're inclined to. Like, the movie does not end with the X-Files being reopened. The closest it comes is when Scully gives her testimony and she says, you know, the FBI currently doesn't have an investigative unit capable of handling this case, meaning bring back the X-Files. Oh, no, come to think of it, they do open, the X-Files are open at the beginning of season 6, but they aren't on it. It's Spender and
Diane.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, the X-Files do reopen, they're just not part of it.
Yeah, but they do show the telegram where he drops it on the floor. It says X-Files reopened. Stop, please, advise. Right. Oh no, stop is from the telegram. X-Files reopened. Stop, please advise. Stop.
Yes.
So CSM looks up and walks away. The camera pans above the scene to show the huge cornfield in the middle of the desert. This is so cool. On the X Files wiki, they actually have like the whole script here with
Wow.
with the directions and everything, the camera directions and everything. But yes, X Files gets reopened, but Mulder and Scully are not part of the X Files. What we get in season 6 is them doing just regular old FBI work, grunt work,
Yeah. For about the
and
first half.
yes, and what's his name? Skinner's no longer the director, right?
Yeah.
Although let's say that for when we talk about season 6, because when season 6 we'll get what is happening to Mulder and Scully and everything. But the movie pretty much ends like most X-Files mythology episodes. They go so far, they see so much, but in the end, it's like nothing. So that part of it is frustrating. It's cool for
Yeah,
us as
but
the audience.
at the same time, it's so very X Files. I mean, like, that's pretty much how things go for them, Like, they uncover the truth, but wind up with no hard evidence.
I
And nobody
know.
believes them.
Nobody believes them. And it's just that I think by this point, I think the audiences were starting to get frustrated with it. And I think that affects a little bit of where the show goes in season 6 and 7 as far as the mythology. And I was in the groups, and man, so many folks that really hate the mythology after the movie. Basically, they feel that Carter was just doing everything possible to destroy everything that he made. He was, it almost felt like Carter was a little upset by the fact that they were forcing him to continue the show that he wanted to end. And he kind of had a clear ending for, and then it just kind of goes and goes and goes. And I don't know. I mean, the season 6 opener is pretty decent. But after that, man, as far as the mythology goes, I mean, the standalone episodes are still pretty high quality, but the mythology is just nowhere. So this is real kind of a marker for me. This movie of X Files pre-movie, X Files post-movie, and where Carter's mind was and what he was willing to do for the show, what maybe he just got tired of doing for the show. Um, so, any final thoughts here on the X Files movie?
Yeah. Just one note that I took that there was no point in inserting at any point in the synopsis. Is I love how the fact that cigarette smoking man just doesn't fucking care. He is going to smoke anywhere and everywhere he wants, even in a quarantine site that's supposed to be like scrubbed down, bleached, clean, sterilized. The world is his ashtray. Um, and this is at a time, I think, the late 90s was when it started to really become like not good to smoke anywhere. He's like,
Yes.
fuck that shit, man. The world is my ashtray.
No,
The movie as a whole, yeah.
no, I was surprised to see him put on that hazmat suit and not have a little
Yeah.
tube for his cigarettes. But yeah, he didn't really give a shit.
Yeah, but the movie as a whole, I watched it twice for the podcast because I watched it just as part of like my regular rewatch, and then of course I got way ahead of where we are in the podcast. So just to be more clear on the movie, I watched it again, loved it both times. It has a high rewatchability factor. If you are a fan of the series, if you're not, I'd say that's really the big difference. It's probably like a one-time watch if you're not a fan of the series. Um, and I do think one thing that bears noting is it accessible to non-fans. No less a man than Gene Siskel, who had never watched the series, gave it 3 out of 4 stars and said it made him want to watch the series. So you're dealing with a pretty high level critic there who gave it hearty thumbs up and had never seen the series. So that's pretty high praise.
Yeah, and they made a ton of money. So
It
which
did,
makes
yes.
me think that the well, it definitely had to go beyond the regular fan base. I mean, when you make a movie, that's the whole point of making a movie is
Yeah.
like let's expand the fan base. So it's it's just something I'm curious about, especially because unlike the other franchises, whether it's Alien or Terminator or Star Trek, Star Wars, the legacy franchises, um, the X Files seemed like it wanted to be that, but it I don't know if it managed to do it like those other
No.
franchises. Nowadays, I mean, maybe young kids, if you play the X Files music, they'll at least have recognized it somewhere because it was on some YouTube video about ghosts or something. So, but aside from that, like, do they know who Mulder and Scully is? Like, I don't think it had the same effect of bringing that many new fans to the show. So much so that if you see the season 6 ratings, that's when things kind of slowly drip, 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 down to some of the abysmal ratings for season 9 when the show was eventually canceled. So that's why I wonder if 20 plus years later, if you pop in the X Files movie, which is a movie that totally stands up. It's not like asking somebody to watch Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, which is a great movie, but it looks like a movie filmed in 1980 something. The X Files movie more or less stands up. I mean, it's got because I think because of the fact that it didn't rely that much on major special effects in this, it was a lot of practical stuff and stuff that feels kind of timeless, like maybe Terminator, the first Terminator, or even parts of the Terminator 2. I don't know. Would the kids be into it? Would the kids get into it and make them want to go dig into season 1 of the X Files? So I'm on the quest, guys. I'm gonna find some folks that have never seen the X Files. Problem is, I gotta find some young folks. I don't know any young people who are want to sit through this. I may make my little cousin sit through it and see what his reaction is because he's coming here this weekend. Uh, we do want to watch Candyman, and maybe, well, I'm not sure if the Don't Breathe Part 2 is playing in Sao Paulo, but I know Candyman is. But maybe I'll sit him down and see if he can, what his thoughts are because he's 17. So he's right in the wheelhouse of when we were fans, or at least when I was a fan of the X Files. So we shall see.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that this is probably the high point for the series, but I think it did season 6, which we will be start beginning to talk about next week. It did get it like running with legs because they had so much buzz coming
Mhm.
off this movie that got great reviews, did good at the box office. So it did definitely, at least at the beginning, draw people to this and give them something to shoot for. Like, okay, we didn't really want to go this far with this series, but we got to do it, and so let's just do the best we can with it. So I think they got one more really good season out of the series before, because I'm almost done 7-7 now, season 7 now. It's like, not so much.
Yes. Can you? I had the Barry. Is it Barry Lyndon effect? You know how it just
Okay.
kind of got totally, took the wind out of my sails when I was like running through a Stanley Kubrick movie at night, and I still haven't gone back to watch the last two movies. That kind of happened to me after the mythology episode from season 6 to 7. That the sixth extinction. Oh my god! Took me about 2 weeks to get back to watching the next episode, which was Hunger, but I haven't gone back to watch the next one yet. So I have to do that at some point this week. But yeah, season 6 wasn't that bad. I agree with you. But you can see where it's like they're running out of ideas, and the show's kind of trying to wind down, but the executives are like, you better not wind this shit down because you just made whatever 200, $300 million movie, as far as profit, and we're selling a lot of merchandise, so keep this shit going. Let me see here how much Fight the Future profit, how much this movie made. It made, good question. Uh, Box office. Yeah, I totally. It's late, guys. Well, okay. It grossed 83 million in the U.S. and 105 million abroad. God damn, it made a lot of money abroad. So it made 189 million dollars. That's not bad. Okay. Number 23 for all films released in the U.S. in 1998. Okay, number 10 for PG-13 rated films. So there you go. There you go. Okay. Although, look at this. As a story, it needs a sequel, prequel, and cliff notes. Uh, Roger E. That's the thing. Look at this. See, there's the second half of Roger Ebert, though. He says he gave it positive reviews with 3 out of 4 stars, saying as pure movie, The X File more or less works, which I agree with him. But as a story, it needs a sequel, prequel, and cliff notes. Gene Siskel also gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying that he was intrigued by the characters and was now seriously tempted to watch the TV show. Um, so I'm kind of on the Gene Siskel level when I watch this, because I'm like Pete. I think I watched it about 2 or 3 times to prep for the podcast, and each time I try to watch it with this lens of imagine I'm just going into this without having seen these first 5 seasons, which is difficult to do. I don't know if I know what the fuck was going on, or if I care about Mulder and Scully that much if it weren't for 5 seasons of being with them. But we'll see. I'm gonna put somebody to the torture at some point, and I'll get their review back. Okay, so that's it, y'all. I'm tired as fuck, and I know Pete is.
Yeah, I'm
It's
done.
11:15 over here, and we are going to bed. And we will hopefully be back next week with season 6 of the X Files. And what's cool about it is that it's a direct continuation of what happened in the movie, so much so that even the last on the X Files has scenes from the movie, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So we'll see you then on Mondays. Not on Mondays, but this coming Monday, we will be on the Brazil Expat Journal, and we'll be talking to a real interesting guest who's a Portuguese teacher, and it'll be cool, So actually, I'm going to message him now just to make sure he's didn't forget. Okay, so see y'all. Bye-bye. Good night.
Trust no one.
Fight the future, y'all. Hope, coronavirus.